Welcome to the bold analysis. Raila Odinga spoke today in Trans Nzoia, and he's saying it is not a must he goes to the United States of America. This is coming after the Kenya Kwanza team came up with a statement that they were calling on the West to put some sanctions on Raila Odinga going to the foreign nation. This is a statement that has just come today, and I want us to look and interrogate it further. I am from the chocolate city of Kibera. This is a place, I need to tell you, I was once here. I stayed here in 2016, and yes, there is a lot of stories here. So for better part of this month, I'll try to come back here so that I can also talk to the people in this place. No, I'm even wondering, who is advising KK? Because the KK seems to be giving Raila mileage one day after the other. It is very clear that Raila Odinga just recently, William Ruto pushed him out of the African Union job, and the supporters are saying a blessing in disguise. Good riddance, because they're actually saying that Raila has a lot of work to do for them here, and there is nothing to apologize or there is nothing to regret about him losing that job. And I also told you guys that the issue of someone losing a job, it does not have the traction because people are losing jobs daily in this country. So hata ukiwaambia eti mtu amepoteza kazi, many people have lost job. At one point mtu ashaipoteza kazi. If you've never, then you are amongst the few that are really favored. But at one point, someone has ever gone through a loss. So William Ruto is asking America and the Europe nations to ban Raila Odinga from visiting those nations. And I'm just wondering about it this way. What does it have to do? Because these are the nations that Azimio la Umoja team believe were behind the candidature of William Samoei Ruto. And Raila believes Raila believes that they're the people that rigged him out. So if you ask them to offer sanctions, I want us to look at it critically. What is the deep politics in it? Why do you think this is now coming at this critical time? The 14 days ultimatum for the mass action was actually dismissed by the Kenya Kwanza. They were dismissing, saying that, of course, president cannot be moved, or the president will remain unmoved by Raila Odinga's statements. But day by day, they seem to be devising different avenues to suppress the Azimio la Umoja. And I want to say this. I think KK seems not to be learning from their own experience. Their presidential bid, or their politics in 2022, was anchored on anger and revenge mission against former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And those who are around Dr. William Ruto were coalesced around Dr. William Ruto because they believed that former President Uhuru Kenyatta did not favor them, or rather was mistreating them. And so they went and coalesced around William Ruto to just because they felt they were to show hostility against Uhuru Kenyatta. But now that seems to be the same thing that is going on. Our politics, or rather political messaging, has never been on rational appeal. It has been on emotional appeal. And that is why you will see that there are some areas where some leaders have performed. But when it comes to politics, the political euphoria of the day will always carry the aspirations of the people. And no one will remember that the political leadership I had did something to me. I need to put some disclaimer. The place is a bit windy, so the sound might be distorted, but you'll bear with me. I decided to do this in this place so that I also have a different feel of the environment. Tulikuwa tumekaa chini sana bana kuongea kwa ma studio za indoor, so hapa nje it's a different environment. Now, I want us to interrogate the Europe sanctions that KK is calling on Raila Odinga. Before we do that, if you're watching this video and if you're not yet subscribed, I want to humbly request you to subscribe to our channel click the notification bell and like our video. And I want to say thank you for those who support us from different parts of the globe. And I also want to say a special shout out to Michael Onyancha. A very warm reception here. I just came here and I realized we met and told me, oh, najua bold maze, and it feels good when someone can interact with the brand and then anakukaribisha kwa sababu anajua bold. So shout out sana, asante sana bro for that support. Now, I want to speak about this. Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to ask ourselves a question. Why do you think Kenya Kwanza are trying to block, or rather are calling on the Western nations to sanction Raila Odinga? There is a deliberate attempt to brand Raila as a rebel, and I'm trying to look at different countries in Africa. And these countries are like, even here in Uganda, when Bobi Wine was against Museveni, Museveni tried to label Bobi Wine as a rebel. Here in Tanzania, Tundu Lissu, who was facing off with the late Magufuli, there was an attempt for him to be branded as a rebel, and I think for him, he even suffered, and he was humiliated and ejected out of the country. Now he got refuge in Belgium. So to what extent, and what has Raila done for him to be branded as a rebel? Because this is it. I've always said that in Azimio la Umoja, the fabric, the grip of that formation is Raila Odinga. And when you put Raila Odinga out of the context, that formation does not exist, as I talk. Even though Uhuru Kenyatta was equally important before the elections. But after the elections, the person that held it is Raila Odinga. I think Ruto is getting scared that with Raila Odinga's international escapades, he's trying to shield Raila out of the foreign funding. Because one of the things that Raila Odinga have is that international network. And the magic of mounting 5 presidential contests has been on the international network that have supported his fundraising. And Ruto seems to be understanding that with what is going on, people, or rather the opposition, is getting traction. In 2007 and 2013, Raila was largely funded by some Western powers that were against the status quo. And being that he has also known that in the just concluded, he was against the status quo, and he might have got the blessings of the support of the foreign nation, you know, everyone will just align to where they see the power. He's realizing that the traction Raila is getting is already is already making foreign nations, giving them an appetite to support him. And I can tell you, if you look at the dynamics of 2022, dynamics of 2017, 2013, in 2017, Raila was largely funded from the local boys around here, the Jim Wanjigis. In 2022, he was also funded from the local boys here, the Mount Kenya Foundation team, the blessings of the incumbency by former President Uhuru Kenyatta. But in 2027, he may not be in a position to get it. And that's now the tactical approach. Now, you have seen the tactical approach of getting the traction from the population, because from that, you can easily get the support from the foreign nations. So that is why I see that KK seems to have seen that there is need to clip Raila Odinga's wings within the borders. It's because it has to do with the international politics into it. Because that at the end of the day, that is the order of the day. Now, I want to look at it secondly. I want to ask a question. The discussion about the cost of living is changing the masses, and the population is getting agitated every day. Now, even if you put sanctions, and I want to say this, that it's not only the sanctions, the efforts to try to clip the Azimio wing or other opposition have been along a spectrum. Just the other day we were talking about government wants to subsidize cooking gas and also inject many players so that they can shrink the capital space by Spectra International, which is a company that is associated with Raila Odinga. And there is also now a discussion about him being denied the privileges under the office of the Prime Minister, the cars and the security that he enjoys. That is there. But now then there is also these sanctions. And I ask yourself, while these are aimed at the person of Raila Odinga, but how is a US sanction going to stop the population from protesting? That's the question. How is, even if you put sanctions that Raila doesn't go to US, yes, it may let a shade and a funding, or maybe the international community, we now see him as a very hostile. We see the Azimio Fold as a very hostile caucus. But how is that going to stop the population from going to protest? Because that's the big question. You can make all the diversions that you need to make, but I don't think it can really hold the grip of stopping those protests. Because at the end of the day, the protest is about what the population is saying. So I want to look at it that way, that the sanctions, they can hold, they hold a substance, because again, you cannot underestimate the influence of the Europe nations in our politics. Lastly, I want to look at it this way. The Azimio la Umoja team insists that maybe they didn't get it because they did not get the favors of the international community. And the messaging, I think, for the last 6 months has been against the Europe nations that might have supported the nation of the day, the state of the day, this administration. And for me, the question is this clear. How will America fall into that trap? How will it? How will America fall into that trap? Because at the end of the day, the population and the political supporters that support Azimio la Umoja already have some hostility. To them, they're trying to play, they also want not to fall into a trap that they are trying to meddle. So how will they fall into that trap, or going to single one person and ban that one person so that it doesn't visit the country? I don't think it's a good order. And I want to repeat that it is about time that the KK gets the right diagnosis. The more you create all these injunctions and all these diversions or attacking the personality of Odinga, it actually charges the masses, because the masses are going to look at it as this is one of our own. Our politics is that of homeboys, that one of our own. So if we go that direction, I have a feeling that we are not getting the right answer to our question. Ladies and gentlemen, what's your take on those sanctions? And so let's also meet in our next analysis.